Why are Physics 110 and 111 at UVic so hard? These are the physics courses that you have to take as part of first year engineering, and a lot of people consider them the weeding out courses because a lot of people do fail them and end up dropping the program. But the reality is that if you can make it through first year, you can make it through the rest of your degree. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to navigate those courses, why they're so difficult, and what are the tricks that people are using to get through them. My name is Matt, and I run a tutoring company called Heywood Academies, and we've been helping students through these courses for the past 4 years. We've helped dozens of students with Physics 110 and 111. So we put together a method here for how to tackle those courses to get through them. So what makes these courses so hard? So first of all, everyone's coming from high school, and most people have taken some sort of high school physics, but the problem is that high school physics, it's supposed to be standardized, but it's really not. It's a really big difference in the level of difficulty between high school physics courses, between different high school teachers, and across different schools. People also coming from out of province or out of the country, they'll have a completely different set of physics skills going into this course. But with high school physics, you're doing everything with algebra. Now that you're in university physics, a lot of the questions you have to solve using linear algebra, some of them involve using calculus. These are things that you're learning at the same time as physics. So it's not like you've already understood the math and now you're applying that math to physics. You're learning the math at the same time that you're learning the physics. And that's what makes this so hard. Another part that's tricky is that the structure of the course makes this difficult. The content that they give for this course, it's kind of on a weekly basis. The course content gets locked, so you can't just look at all the resources throughout the whole semester. After a certain point, you'll get locked out of the content, so you won't be able to go back and look at the old materials. The idea is this, I'm assuming, is that they want students to sort of stay on top of the course so that they're not going back later and falling behind. In reality, it means that you just can't go back up and catch up later. You get sort of stuck because the materials are restricted and you can't go back and look at them. There are lots of good resources from this course. So that's the one thing that I would say is really great about this course, is that there's pretty much an unlimited amount of study materials. You have assignments, you have teaching assignments, which are kind of like practice assignments. There's lots of class examples, and then you also get lots of practice tests, and the practice tests are very similar to what you'll see on the actual test. They are the same format. Something to keep in mind is that with the assignments, you don't have to show your work. It's like an online thing where you just put your numbers in as your answer and it just gives you like a check or an X. So a lot of people just kind of make their way through the assignments without really solving them and understanding them. But I've seen this happen a lot where sometimes those questions from the assignments or the teaching assignments will be slipped into the tests and they're like exactly the same question. So if you just kind of breeze through the assignments without really understanding them, you might get into trouble on the tests. The other thing is that the tests are all multiple choice. So there is 0 part marks. The tests are set up so that you have a question, and then underneath the question, there's 3 or 4 actual questions. So it'd be like a big block of text and maybe a picture, and then underneath the picture, they're asking you to do 3 or 4 things based off that situation. So that gets a little bit tricky because if you don't understand the situation, then you might not only get one question wrong, but they all kind of add on top of each other. So you might end up getting 3 or 4 questions wrong. When you go to do your tests, you're allowed to bring a formula sheet in, but you have to create your own formula sheet. So what I always recommend to people is as you're going through the assignments, teaching assignments, in-class examples, and the practice tests, every time you solve a problem, just look at your solution and take the actual equations that you use to solve that problem and put on your formula sheet. That way, when the test shows up, you don't have to go back and go through all your notes again to try and find all your formulas. You just already have them there set up, ready to go. The multiple choice questions are a different beast to tackle. A lot of times when you're taking tests, you can kind of bank on the fact that you'll get some part marks if you show your work. Even if you don't get it 100% correct, you might still pass the question because you're getting some marks on there. But with multiple choice, it's either a yes or a no. It's right or wrong. So there is no part mark shown. So that means that when you're studying for this, you have to keep that in mind as you go through and solve these problems. The other thing that happens a lot of time is the tests are quite long. I think they're like around 20 questions, which for physics is pretty long. A lot of people just run out of time. They just don't have enough time to finish their test. So that's where those practice tests come in. You'll usually get a few of them, I think, before each test. So you can go through and just give yourself a timer and see how long it takes for you to go through that whole test. That way you'll know before you get into the test kind of how far behind you are. And another tool that can be really helpful is using AI to help you study, but you've got to be careful and you've got to use it in the right way. So it can be useful for solving through practice problems, but one thing that I find with AI is that the solutions are often really hard to follow. This is especially bad for physics. So what ends up happening when you take a screenshot of a problem and you just throw it into AI and say, solve this problem, is it'll just pull information from everywhere to try and solve this problem. So what ends up happening is you're going to see physics equations that you've just never seen before as part of that solution, because it's pulling them from all different random places. So what you can do to make this a little bit more helpful is if you're using something like Claude, you can set up a project for that course and you can upload files from your course into Claude so that it knows to pull information specifically from that course. So you're not pulling things from random places, you're pulling things specifically from your course. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that UVic does have an academic integrity policy, so you're going to want to read that to make sure that you're using AI in a way that doesn't violate any of those policies. And same with any other schools or universities. Some schools are more accepting than others for that, so just have to check out that policy and see what exactly you're allowed to do. So I would say AI is pretty helpful, but it's almost more helpful if you already understand the physics, because you can go through and kind of figure out when it's not making sense and when it's saying something that's kind of silly. But if you're using it to learn, sometimes it's a little bit tricky. I would say it's pretty good at getting the right answer. It's not that good at explaining how to get to the answer. So at what point do you get a tutor when you're struggling with Physics 110 and 111? There's a few things to consider here. So if you fail this course and you have to retake it, it ends up extending your whole first year, can end up extending your degree. It's really demoralizing to have to go and take these courses all over again. So if you can avoid that, it's definitely helpful. Usually what I recommend to people is that if you know that you're not strong in physics and you're worried about it, the best thing that you can do is start from right from the beginning, one session a week, stay on top of it, help you study week by week, help keep the momentum going so that you're not falling behind. But if, let's say, you get to your first midterm and you end up failing the first midterm, 100% that's the time to get a tutor and start turning this thing around. Because by the time you get to the second midterm and getting closer to the final exam, it might be too late at that point. We've had quite a few students who reach out to us in the last couple weeks of class before their final, and we usually turn them away just because it's too late on it, to be honest. It takes a few weeks to see results, and there's not much we can do in the last couple of weeks. So when we get into those tutoring sessions, we just focus on solving problems. So we try and take the problems and the resources from your course and solve them in a way that makes sense. We also like to set you up with a study plan so that outside of the sessions, you have a plan going forward. You know how to tackle those questions, you know what things to work on in between the tutoring sessions. Our goal is to make it so that you study effectively on your own. You're not using the tutor as a crutch to get you through the course. If you're interested in tutoring, I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out.